What will the new BASS Elite Series qualification rules mean for anglers that fish regional BASS Opens? How can a regional angler drum up the support to fish all 9 events? Is the dream still alive? This is the first in a series of interviews we've set up with Regional Open pros to find out what they will do next year. We have Northern Open pro Joe LaBarbera on tonight's podcast, and we will get those answers and more.
Chasing man, it shows how to perform. Well, your style's been changed because we're so vain, but you'll take a sunset for stone. Look out her name, you're bad, bad, bad. Here you come, said you're bad, bad, bad. Sing for a time, you're the hottest ticket in town. Well, your shorts, new moves, cause baby, you're smooth, you're above us.
We'll get those life vest zipped in clips, strap down those rods, and stash away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Neiswanger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 in your live well. You wanted it, we have it here tonight. What do the new BASS Elite Series rules mean for the regional BASS Pro? We have Northern Open Pro Joe LaBarbera on the podcast tonight. But first, if you like the content we produce on this channel, please subscribe and leave us a comment. We'll wait. Release the hounds. Thank you. We are building our viewership, and your follow means a lot to us. We'd also love to hear from you, so please leave a comment. This is a controversial subject tonight. I'm sure you're going to want to sound off. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear, and we will respond to your comments. As you know, we are the Western representatives for Duckett Fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits. Duckett is building a Western presence, and if you haven't seen it yet, you soon will. New independent dealerships are popping up all the time. If you live in the West and know of a tackle shop, kayak store, boat dealership, gas station, sporting goods store, donut shop, barber shop, or dentist office where we should be selling our products, drop us a comment down below, let us know, and we will follow up on that. Find out about the Duckett lineup of pro-driven products by going to their website, duckettfishing.com. Joe LaBarbera is a BASS Regional Open Pro with a stated goal of qualifying for the BASS Elite Series. As many of you know, BASS has recently restructured the Open system and Elite Series qualification so that Open anglers must fish all 9 Opens to have a chance to qualify for the Elite Series. I'm sure many of you are wondering, like myself, what will these regional Open anglers do in 2023? Tonight, we begin a series of interviews with BASS Open pros where we can ask this very question. Joe LaBarbera, welcome to the Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Keith.
How's that for an introduction?
Love it. Love it.
We don't fool around here. Hey, let's not pull any punches, Joe. You've been a regional pro up to now on the Open Series. What are you going to do in 2023?
Oh, it was a pretty easy choice for me. I mean, as long as I can come with the support of a lot of the brand partners that have got behind me for the last couple of years, it's a no-brainer that is the only path. Frankly, I was excited to hear about the change, but I know a lot of people weren't. But I think it's good for BASS, and I am a huge supporter of them, so I'm behind it.
So I want to go and kind of talk about maybe the first 48 hours of the whole thing, because when this information came out, obviously there was a lot of knee-jerk reaction, but what were those 48 hours like when you first heard about it? Were you like, yeah, I'm in, or were you like, what goes on here?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, like, I know it would be like super dramatic for content if I was like, oh yeah, like I had to ruminate and I had to soul search. But like, to be honest, I was coaching camp at the time. I wasn't really on social media that much. I knew ICAST was going on. And to me, it didn't surprise me that they had finally announced it. To me, I was just like, heck yeah, I hope I can get the money. Like, that's really all it was.
Yeah. I mean, was this something, were there rumors building and it was finally announced, or did it come out of the blue?
I mean, when you travel around with the high level, like, buddies that I have, and like, I'm probably the worst fisherman out of most of my friends. I'm really close with Brad Leitner, who's got a top 10 and, 5 Northern Opens, over the last 2 years. He finished 10th last year at the St. Lawrence. He finished like 6th this year at the James. We travel with Brad Rasmussen and Adam Rasmussen, and Adam and Brad are stinking hammers. And we always hear things throughout the industry. Like, Brad's really close with Pat Renwick of Straycast, and he's really close with Seth Feider. And, I know Zaldane and Polinick and Sukup as part of the Alpha Angler crew. And, so we hear stuff, but, you don't really I don't talk to those guys every single day. And we're all like, when we don't call each other being like, whoa, did you hear this? Like, whoa, like, it's really just, this might happen, and hopefully it aligns with what we already have planned, because whether or not this was instituted this year, that doesn't really change that much what a lot of these high level regional pros already have planned. Like, if our plan is to stay regionally, or our plan is to go nationally, what an organization doesn't really have a huge effect on like the group of close friends that I have. Like, we just do what we do anyway. So, we had kind of hoped that this would happen, but for the sake of Bass, it's what we would have liked to see for BASS moving forward, because we just believe that it's going to produce pros that are going to last. They're going to have long careers. They're going to push the other 100 anglers to become better. We want those rookies pushing those seasoned veterans. And, if you're a true fan of whatever circuit you're a true fan of, that's what you should really hope for. So,
absolutely.
I mean, Brad and I were super stoked. I mean, I haven't talked to Raz in a couple of weeks, but I mean, it was something that we were happy to hear. And Raz fished all 9 this year anyway. So we were happy about it.
Now, do you feel that does this decision maybe accelerate what you were going to do, or were you thinking about trying to do all 9 anyway?
It doesn't accelerate it. I mean, I would have liked to have been in a position to financially, it would make sense for my brand partners and I, but so what it does is now it puts, a little more like angst into it. Like, okay, now we have to drive YouTube harder. Now we have to make sure we're on Instagram, you know, very like on a schedule. Like everything that we need to do to become very marketable for the brands that support us, you know, that needs to be in full effect, because basically the 6 months following ICAST now, you have 3 to showcase the ever living snot out of yourself. And then you have 3 to now propose and try to gain that income. And for a lot of people, myself included, it will be a huge step up to now make the income that it takes to sustain, 9 weeks plus travel. So, I mean, like for me in Northeast PA, basically on the New York border, I mean, it takes a day and a half to drive to Florida. You don't do it in one pop, like I can get to Lanier in 14 hours, but like in the winter, like, you're pretty gassed by the time you've gone 14. So it's really 2 days of travel to get, down to Harris or Okeechobee or anywhere in Florida. So like, you have to factor 2 days down, 2 days back. Like, so it's more than 9 weeks of the year that you're on the road. And, so it does put a little more of a pep in my step to make sure that, I'm securing the finances and upping the relationships that I need to up. But as far as like, changing strategy or changing path, it doesn't really change that. It's really just the like kick in the butt you need to make sure you're kicking it every week.
Yeah. It occurs to me, you're talking about getting funding together and things like that. It occurs to me that the bass fishing industry needs to respond to this also, because now there's a group of anglers that are going to be committing to these 9 open events. And it would seem like some companies would need to, I don't know, when you buy stock, you try to buy stock when a company is brand new. And right. To me, someone who's going to jump in and fish all 9 opens, it's like an initial public offering. So this is when these companies need to get in and invest. They need to get in on the ground floor. And now there's a real ground floor.
I mean, that would be really badass, right? Like if that's how things worked. But like, unfortunately, there are so many brands in the industry trending away from getting behind the great angler. They want the really good angler who's good at a lot of things.
Right.
So I think if you're let's take Coop Gallant, for instance, right?
Yes.
Coop is one of the most marketable 20 somethings in the industry, right? If you're very versatile, like Coop is, you're a great fisherman, you put in time all over the country, you're obviously must be a good businessman. He's leveraged himself some great relationships, I would imagine. Like I work with the Rod Glove and with Exxon and their owner, Jim, and Jim's 2 boys, they speak extremely highly of Coop. But, Coop's willing to sleep in his truck. He's willing to edit it in a campground tent if he has to. He's not just a great angler. So really, I hope there is a shift in the industry to recognize those anglers that are competing at a high level and doing something else at a very good level. But we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, there's brands that choose to do so many different things, right? There's a lot of brands that will really get behind social media influencers, and there are brands that won't touch social media influencers that aren't competitive anglers at a high level. And really just kind of understanding what you can do for your partners, and what brands fall into the categories that suit your strengths and suit what path you want to run your business on. Because each one of us is a business owner.
Yes.
So you have to understand what brands fit your business model. You can't just choose brands because you're like, oh, I like that boat or I like that rod. Like, you also have to choose brands that are supportive of who you are. Like, right. you have to fall into their family. It needs to be a really good fit right off the get-go. And like part of me is, this kind of will circle me all the way back around to the initial question of like, were you excited or were you taken back? And I really wasn't, because what I think is going to make for a really strong angler in the future isn't just someone with out of this world Kevin Van Dam skills. What I think is really the future of this sport is the guy who is also a tremendously seasoned individual who can handle himself in so many different ways on the travel front, the angling front, and the business front. And, that comes with time, and that understanding of what brands match your business motto and what you want for your brand. When those two brands, the angler and the fishing industry brand, when they come together and have a very seamless fit, that's when things are great. And it takes anglers time. Some of these guys coming right out of college are way better fishermen than me. If you look at like a Jake Maddox or you look at Logan Parks, I would imagine in 90% of the geographic regions of the country, they're probably better than me. But those guys, and Logan maybe isn't a good example, because I know Logan was really the head of that fishing club in college. Like, he really drove a lot of the business relationships for that team. But and Jake does a lot of work too, which is why I know him really well. But there are so many anglers that are so stinking good, but that's just because they've fished 30 tournaments a year at a super high level at places they've never known, and they did it for 4 years straight. There are so many that aren't prepared on so many of the marketing fronts that so many of these brands need you to be prepared on for them to get behind you. Because I mean, you can look at so many brands that just support influencers. So, I really think that the angler of the future is going to be great at all of those things. And it takes time to figure that out. I'm 36 years old. Like, I'm not what I think Maddox is 22, 23. And then you look at like Redwine and Jonathan Kelly, who are rookies, and they're like 25 and 26 or something. And, I have 10, 11 years, 12 years, 13, 14 years on Jake. Like, so, it takes time to get that experience in life. Like, I remember being in my mid-20s, and I wouldn't even tell people I didn't know what I was doing. I still assumed I knew everything in this world. And if somebody was like, do you know how to do that? I was like, yeah, I know how to do that. But, it takes a more mature person to kind of get to that point. So I think we'll see more 30-something rookies,
Well, I was going to say, I think it's a very profound thing that you say there. A 9-event series, you're going to have to be a better business person to be able to line up that kind of support. Is that something you're comfortable with? What is your value? I mean, if you had to put a value on yourself, what is it?
Well, I mean, like, not to put a dollar figure on what I believe my value is, but let's kind of look at what it takes to be on the road for maybe 12 weeks. I mean, because you obviously need to film, you have to produce a lot of content. If you don't live on a Gunnersville, or if you don't live on a Lake Fork or an Ivy or somewhere where you can get at least 6 months of great content right in your backyard, you're going to have to shoot hard for 3 to 8 more weeks of the year to even come up with some tremendous content that makes you valuable, whether it be for YouTube or whatever social media platform you choose to use. I mean, you're going to be on the road a lot. And, I look at it like this, okay, is right now to probably to have, if they do raise the entry fees, which they may raise them to like 2,000 or 21 or 2,200.
Why not? Right.
If they go up, and if they're $2,000, I mean, we're looking at 36. Wait, no, I'm doing the math wrong. 2,000 times 9. We're looking at 18 grand for entry fees. I mean, so let's just call it 20.
Yeah.
So let's say 20 grand for entry fees for the year. To stay on the road, just to house yourself. I mean, we're all not Pangerac and Hallman and have this group of guys that we go everywhere with and Airbnb with. You're probably looking at close to $50 a night. And it could be as much as $100 a night in some of the weeks or some of the nights of the year that you're traveling. We may see gas come down a little as we're approaching the midterms here, but that could go back up in the summertime again. I mean, right now in the Northeast, it's the lowest it's been in a long time. And I put gas in the truck this morning for $4.34 a gallon. I mean, I know it's $1 cheaper in like Texas right now, but I don't live in Texas. Like, so most of the time I'm
try living in California.
Yeah. And try living in California, or goodness gracious, try being Coop in Canada.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're looking at $55,000. It's probably going to cost you just to travel for 9 or 10 weeks of the opens. And I'm including driving, calling it 10 weeks. And then you got to have, like, if you're a YouTube guy and you don't shoot everything yourself, I mean, you're looking at anywhere from $400 to $1,000 a day for some of the camera guys. Now, a lot of your brand partners may handle that for you. Like if you work with Sims, they work with Featherwick, they hire Featherwick to do the shooting and the editing, but maybe you have to get paid more for some of the brands that don't include certain time that you get with some of these creators, some of these great, like marketing whizzes, like Bud Cipoletti is amazing, who runs Featherwick. But maybe that's not included in your contract. So like you have to go and get $80,000 now for the year to so that you can support all of this stuff that you're doing. And even if you're not paying for a guy to film, or even if you're not paying for somebody to edit any of your stuff, you still have to travel. Like you can't shoot everything at home in your backyard. I mean, just for me to get to Oneida, which is my home body of water, it's an hour and 40 minutes. So like, yeah, I might not be paying for overnight stays, and I might be able to get friends from home to hold a camera for me. And I can spend, hours and hours and hours of editing, but now I have to get $60,000 just to fish the season, just to do this stuff. And now I have no income on top of that. So I have to go out and find $100,000 so that I can pay my mortgage, make sure the boat payment is taken care of, my insurances. Like, I mean, things build up. Like we have to make money on top of this. Like I can't eat the lawn outside. I mean, plus I got to put gas in the mower to mow it.
Right.
So I mean, these things are a lot. So you got to figure an opens angler has to make an income of $100,000 if he's going to make, fish all nine.
Right.
Now, again, you might not, some opens anglers may have greater expenses than others. So there can be a sliding scale. Maybe it's $80,000 and one of your sponsors picks up your opens entries, or maybe it's 120 and you have requirements to shoot X amount of content for X amount of products, and somebody's paying you a little more to do that. But you got to figure on average, you got to make 6 figures.
Yep.
So it's a huge undertaking. So to put a value on myself, am I worth 6 figures? I mean, I do a lot of other stuff too. I mean, I run social media for a couple of brand partners. I, create for one of my brand partners too. I mean, we do a lot of filming for their website that's launching in a couple of weeks. I mean, so like there's a lot that you can do to make yourself valuable, but to be able to even negotiate your way to get close to that is an enormous undertaking.
Absolutely.
And you have to be seasoned to know how to appropriately ask for some of this stuff. I mean, not everybody has major marketing budgets.
Right.
So whereas I may do X amount of things for one brand, I may have to do twice as much for another brand, and I may be making less, but I love their products. I love the people. And that is just like, I may be high up on that brand scale, even though their marketing budget isn't as big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being part of these families and understanding it, starting it from the bottom, like I'll give you a perfect example. So when I started working with PowerPole, I had to beg them just to be on the staff. I was like, guys, I'm not looking for anything for free. Like, I really want a year to show you what I can produce. I have polls. I have the PowerPole charge. Like, I am a fan of your products. I don't want anything. Like, I'm not looking for a 30% discount because I don't need anything from you guys. Really, what I want is I want you to pay attention for a year and see that I can do this for you. And next year, when my application, again, because for PowerPole is a perfect example, you have to reapply every single year through the website. Every year when my application comes over your desk, I want you to think about how this is how I did my first year for nothing. And I asked for nothing other than an opportunity. And then you learn the people you work with, and you send emails at the end of the year that says, I had a wonderful experience working for you guys. I did X, Y, Z. I hope you guys are doing great. On Thanksgiving, I send emails out. Like holidays, I send stuff to these people, not gifts, but like, hey, I'm thinking of you. I know the season's winding down. Is there anything you guys need as it's getting cold in half of the country? Can I help you out with stuff? And like, this is the kind of thing that I did for years to try to make myself valuable. And you build relationships with pro staff managers and marketing heads this way. And I'm talking 100 miles an hour because it's a lot of work, and yep, you have to have the energy and the drive. And like Polnick says it all the time, if you physically cannot live without fishing, you will do whatever it takes. And yep, I can't live without finding out if I can be a Bassmaster Elite Series pro, and I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Let's shift gears really fast. Your YouTube channel is The Outer Realm. Yeah. I've been looking at it recently, and I got to say, it is very professionally done. I can tell by the camera angles. I can tell by the placement of the cameras. You got somebody really strong helping you.
Yeah. I'm very blessed. I met Clint Bartlett. It's C Bartlett Bow on Instagram. I met Clint Bartlett like a little over a year ago. I met him at the Dallas Fort Worth Bassmaster Classic, and he was working for Black Rifle at the time, and he was doing a lot of marketing stuff for them. And Clint and I kind of like hit it off. Like, he's super personable, younger guy. I think he was 23 at the time. I think he's 24 now. But like, you'd never know that he's 12 years younger than me. Like, we kind of act the same age, and like, we clicked right off the bat. And Clint went off on his own, started doing his own thing. He films and edits for Fish Mavericks. They have a channel called Fishing Circus, I believe is their YouTube channel. But I really, I hit it off with him immediately. And then I saw him again at this year's Classic. And he was actually working for Cast Fishing and doing a lot of like freelance stuff for them. And they're an Australian-based company. And back in March, it was still really hard to get over the pond if you were trying to come from outside the country into ours, if it wasn't Canada. And so he was doing all the filming and stuff for them as they are entering into the US freshwater market. And Clint and I talked, and while he was at the cast booth, and he came over to Alpha Angler, and that I always work for Alpha. They're the people that got me into the industry. And, we over 3 days went back and forth, and finally we were just like, dude, let's just go shoot for like 2.5 days together sometime. Let me look at the footage when we get done. And I'll see if, where I'm kind of at that time. So we actually plan to do it on the Thousand Islands, opening day of bass season. And you can't even fish in Jefferson County, which is where Clayton, New York is, where the Bassmaster Elite Series goes out of, and where the Open last year went out of. And you can't even fish. You can't even target smallies for like a month and a half or something up there. And leading up to that June 15th opening day. So we planned to have Clint come, and it was just an utter explosion of awesome. And we got a ton of footage. But anyway, when Clint and I had already planned this, then Ryan, who's the partner in the United States that owns Cast Freshwater here in the US domestic market, he's like, oh, I want to go and I want to get footage for Cast too. So Brian ended up coming a few days after Clint and I got our stuff done. And since they're a very new brand, we like, they don't pay me, but we have a lot of really cool things worked out, and they help me get and take care of some of Clint's fees for editing and stuff. And that partnership is very fruitful for me, because right now that's really what I need done. Is I want really professional work done, as I feel like everything that I put out every week now is, if for lack of a better term, I'm semi-interviewing for now, trying to step up, maybe not just one rung, but two rungs on the pay scale with a lot of these brands.
Yeah, it's very professionally done, and it looks very good. We got just a couple minutes left. I know you got to get on the road, and I wanted to ask you, are you ready to share or tell us who some of your helpers are going to be for next year, the companies that are going to be helping you on this trip?
So, I mean, I will forever work for Alpha Angler. I believe in what they're doing. Brad Loomis, son of fame, Gary Loomis, makes like 80% of our blanks. He doesn't make every single one, but we've built a great relationship with Brad. And anytime Brandon or myself or Jake, the owner, anytime any of us have kind of an outside the box idea, if Brad doesn't already make the blank, he's willing to try. He's willing to do something kind of crazy and new. And but usually he's very ahead of the industry trends and is already coming up with new ideas before we even have it. And seems like we all gel really well. And Jake Boomer, the owner, gave me my first shot in the industry, and it's I'll always be an Alpha Angler. Like it will forever be in me. I will never change. I mean, I've fished pretty much every brand out there. I'll never change. There's no reason to. I really believe we make the best stuff on earth. Phoenix is a huge supporter of me. Jeff Hartung, the vice president of sales, and I have got along since the day I met him at the Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville, Tennessee. Him and I gelled super quick. Jeff is kind of a ball buster, and that family atmosphere is very, very similar to Alpha. Like, I think everybody thinks Phoenix is this major boat manufacturer because we see brands like Basscat and Ranger, and we think major factories, right? Huge. I mean, we're making like 1,500 boats a year. Like, that's up from like 2 years ago. We were making like 1,100 a year.
I think they're one of the last boat companies to be independent, right?
Yeah. I mean, so who did we buy those molds from when we first started like 12 years ago? I can't even remember. Was it Bumblebee or something? Is that who we bought the molds from?
I don't know.
it was the factory, and molds were pre-existing, and we kind of used that as our starting point to expand into things. So, I mean, anyway, my point is Phoenix they're like a family, and I call one of the offices, and the last boat of the brand of boat I owned, when I'd call, I'd get transferred, and usually I wouldn't get a phone call back for like 2 days. And when I call Phoenix, I can basically hear them go like this: Joe's on the phone. So like, and somebody down the hall answers, so those are the kind of relationships I've really put myself into. Alpha, Phoenix, Cast, they're huge. I mean, I work with a company, Logjam, too, that makes tremendously cool like stickers and t-shirts, and I work with them because they're a couple of, like, I don't want to call them hippies, but they're like really like laid back dudes that have a cool vibe and a family atmosphere, and they make the coolest sticker on earth, Smallmouth for President. It's huge on my jersey. So like they're really cool guys. So I mean, I don't just choose the brands that can pay the best. I don't just choose the biggest companies. PowerPole and Daiwa are two like more corporately structured brands that I work with, and I have a great relationship with both of them. Casey Carpenter and Lindsay Lovett over at Power Pole. They're really cool. And I love working with, you know, the guys at Daiwa, and I got set up with a really good Daiwa shop really early. The Tackle Trap is really, really cool guys. They have one of the best reel tuners in the country. Spanky can fix anything that's broken. You know, now my Daiwa dealer is more local to me. I work with Lakeside Outfitters, and Lakeside really is kind of the flagship of what I'll be doing next year. They kept me from having to go back to my job. They stepped up when I needed income to keep doing this thing. I used to work for a nonprofit, and I actually taught drug and alcohol prevention. And when the school year was getting close to the end, I told my job I was going to try to make this happen. And they're like, well, if you want, come October 1st, if you haven't been able to make it work, we're always here for you. We'll keep the job open. And I actually have to go in tomorrow and let them know that Lakeside has stepped up the last couple of weeks. But Lakeside is huge, and they're the coolest shop. If you guys fish the Northern Opens, if any of you guys on the West Coast or anywhere else in the country who's seeing this, you guys probably went into the shop, and it's freaking badass. Like, they have stuff that is insanely hard to get. Yep. And like, I kind of kept it quiet for a little while when I first learned about them. Like, I didn't even want to tell people, because I was like, they got stuff in stock you can't find at Tackle Warehouse ever. And they're cool. Like, Scott and Michael and Jeff, the three owners, two brothers and a best friend, they've invited me into the family. And that's pretty much the deal, is whatever partnerships I've really made, I really want that family vibe. And if I don't feel that family vibe in like 6 months, I talk to them about wanting change immediately. Because there's no relationship or amount of money or anything that's worth not having that. I want them all to be lifelong. So that's what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, thanks for being with us. We'll be your biggest fans. We'll be watching, and we will have you on for, if you're willing to come on for a midterm report or whatever. We'll talk. We'd be happy to have you back. You're a joy to talk to, and appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Keith. I look forward to seeing your future episodes too.
All right. Joe LaBarbera is swinging for the fences. Ready or not, here he comes. He clearly welcomes this opportunity, and for sure, his story is going to be a compelling one in the months to come. Well, that's going to do it for us in this episode. Thanks again for coming by. Until next time, keep both hands on the wheel. Keep those life vests zipped and clipped. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you again very soon.